Good morning, traders. Thanks for joining. Welcome to Admiral Markets. My name is Chris. Today's focus is on chart patterns in this live trading room webinar where we take a look at Forex, commodities, and stock indices. If you have any preference for an instrument, feel free to use the chat or, of course, also for questions, and you can reach me there. If you are on Twitter, here are our Twitter handles at Chris Forsyth, at Admiral Markets. It would be great if you followed us. And otherwise, let's kick off. Before we take a look at the charts and look at price action, be aware that this webinar is shown to a global audience but may not be suitable for everyone. Please visit admiralmarketsglobal.com, select your country of residence, and contact the appropriate entity for more details. Also, please be aware that trading for exchange at global financial markets is considered high risk. Also, please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. This webinar is for informational and educational purposes only. By continuing watching this webinar, you agree with the disclaimer, and you are aware of the risk involved when trading. So as always, 3 steps that we look at when trading: defining the trend and momentum, looking at patterns, Fibonacci, chart patterns, candlestick patterns, wave patterns, and looking at support and resistance, trying to basically see what is the most likely path of least resistance, as it's called, and then trying to stake out, try to find that space that's interesting to trade. Hopefully it's a wide open space, but in any case, it would be good if there's some basically some leverage there or some reward to risk that's interesting, I should say. When I set up my plan, I say, okay, I'm waiting for price to get to a decision zone, then I'm waiting for a trigger like the confirmation for price to confirm that it's basically doing what I want to see, and then I enter. Alrighty, so let's take a quick look at the calendar. We have a Bank of Canada interest rate. We have ECB press conference on Thursday. The Canadian rate is Wednesday. Otherwise, there's some other data, of course, coming out. The pound has something tomorrow. Today, the pound has CPI, and the dollar has CPI. And let's see, yeah, here, inflation rate, as you can see. So, that's something you want to be aware of. Take a look at that always before trading. Be aware of those events. You can go to analytics and then click on calendar. If you do the same, but then click on wave analysis instead, then you would get this, or technical analysis. You would see Nenet's material or maybe my video on Mondays. But the wave analysis basically showing that your dollar making a correction to the upside. We'll take a look at that, basically saying, okay, we've made 5 waves down like this. The green, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're expecting it, or I'm expecting now at the moment, an ABC, bullish ABC, for a B, and then a turn at these fibs. Let's take a look. That is basically a zigzag pattern. For the pound, we're seeing a bigger correction, a bigger triangle corrective. Basically, that's a chart pattern 2. It's a consolidation zone. That's indicating a pause. We had a strong bearish fall, of course, 2 weeks ago. So it's bearish momentum, bullish correction. So expecting a bearish continuation. But not right now. We're still in a correction. And the dollar yen is basically in an uptrend. It does not seem to be working at the moment. So let's just take a look at the charts right now. Alrighty. Let's take a look at some of these dollar pairs. We had, of course, dollar strength, now some dollar retracement. So what's going on? Well, I think that we can easily put a fib from here to here, probably like this. I think that's the 5 wave that I was looking at. And price is at the 23.6 fib, but it seems to be only a small bounce. So there's another fib on this chart. So let me get rid of that one. That's probably, yeah, let me explain this fib. This is if it's a contracting triangle still, very quickly, I know that if you're here regularly, that we talk about this, more often, and it's getting repetitive. But if this is an A, B, C, D, then price will maybe stop at these fibs, right, of this swing high, swing low. That's why I have this fib on for the higher time frames. So if price bounces at 109.40, if it bounces at 107.50, it could still be the D. But if momentum is strong and it's falling with big weekly candles and closing near the low, if this week, for instance, has another candle that is similar to last week when the close was right at the low, then these fibs will probably not prove to be that important. If this week turns out to be like this, right, with a small wick at the top as it retraces and then closes right here, I'm not counting on these fibs as a support. I think that the price will eventually break it. It could be first a bear flag, for instance, like this, but eventually there will be the break and there will be a downtrend. So it's going to be interesting how price really responds and how the momentum acts in this area, and that will give us more, I think, more information whether this is a downtrend or whether it's still a part of a bigger kind of consolidation. Last week was definitely a strong candle, but that's not enough for me to say, you know, that's a downtrend, no doubt about it. So from that perspective, but last week's candle was bearish, so I do expect a continuation. It's just the question is, how does it continue? That will give me more information about whether it's a real downtrend or this is just part of a bigger correction like this, and we'll see another correction, and then we'll see the downtrend start. So if that's not clear, just let me know. I can, you know, elaborate on that. Otherwise, at this moment, I'm expecting an ABC up for one more push down. The only question is, if, you know, when the ABC finishes, the questions are, where will it finish? Which fib? That we don't know. That's why I'm going to look at candlestick patterns at these fibs to see which one will be used more likely. Let me get rid of this fib, by the way. This, all right. So one of the questions is which fib? It could be the 38, the 50, or the 61.8 probably. That's question one. And the question two is, once it does that, right, how will it start to fall? If it's slow and corrective, then I don't think it's the start of the downtrend. If it starts to fly down, the downtrend has started. So from that perspective, looking for shorts at these fibs in both scenarios makes sense. This whole bearish kind of story or analysis is invalidated if price were to break above a 112.30 here. All right, because that's my main fib. And in that case, basically, in my view, this was a correction. This is a new impulse. So yeah, if for whatever reason price will break above here, then something else is going on. There's a trend line here as well, as you can see. Let's take a look at the daily chart. So you can see that in that case, this trend line will be broken. So if that happens, let's not even talk about it. It doesn't seem that likely. If tomorrow price made a very big momentum like this and then it's making a bull flag, for instance, it could happen. But I don't think that is very likely. So let's not waste time on that. For the moment, though, I'm expecting this upside, not breaking 112.30. You see already a bit of momentum here, just a tad. It seems like the 23.6 fib was a stopping spot. Now it's already pushing higher. So I think there could be a move up to the 38.2 fib. And I wouldn't be surprised to see another ABC like this, and then maybe another push up to the 50 fib before you get a bigger turnaround. Unfortunately, you know, these corrections can kind of like expand and get a bit more complicated like that, or complex. So it, you know, that ABC zigzag could become a complex correction, and you might see something like what I have on the chart right now. So that's why using trend lines makes sense. For instance, we will be able probably to connect these bottoms like this, and the fibs will be useful, but also when price breaks below this green line, it will be another kind of confirmation that price is continuing with its downtrend. So trade ideas, I think, looking for shorts at these fibs. Be careful with the 38.2 fib because it could expand higher. That is less troublesome if a higher fib is traded. I think candlestick patterns at these fibs make sense, but trade management want to be careful because it could push higher. So that means that Here, if there are 5 candles not breaking this low, for instance, I would use my time factor rule. All right, that's a signal for me to move to break even and reduce that risk. And in the intraday perspective, I think personally that it's probably a better potential today to look for upside. Let me take a quick look where the pivot point is, or we can do that by adding Admiral Markets pivot point. Let me quickly do that. Here you go, Admiral pivot. And let me add the daily indeed. It's already above the R1, as you can see. So it looks like a bullish environment. R3 is at the 38.2 fib. So at this moment, I think that longs make more sense from an intraday perspective. From a swing perspective, I think waiting for price to get up to resistance is probably a better idea. You know, how to trade this, I'm still thinking about it, but I think, let's see, we got 3 minutes left. This looks like a good 1 hour candle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the 5th candle. So I would probably expect this morning for price to break above this 110.25. It might be even better to wait for that actually. There seems to be a classic ABC zigzag pattern here, and this seems to be a start of a new momentum. But I think that at this moment I'm not sure. I don't see any trade right here at this moment. Let's move on, I think. I think that if price were to break above this top, above 110.25, hit the R2, and then make a bull flag, maybe put a fib on from here to here, for instance, like this, and wait for that 23.6 fib, for instance, and then there could be a good chance of price to go up to at least 110.60. It's a very small space, but there could be a small intraday scalping trade there. Alternatively, let's see. Alternatively, if it still corrects lower, right, there's an entire zone here. I think that could still be a bouncing spot too at 110 as well. So now it does not seem to be a good moment, I think. But intraday, I think, seems a bit more set up for bullishness, despite the fact that the downtrend is present, because I think we're going to see a bigger correction like this. I would be proven wrong, in my opinion, if price breaks below the pivot point and 110 support, or obviously if it breaks also below this 109.60. All right, pound USD. Here too, we see momentum, price haggling here with these wicks, and eventually making some upside. Talked about that potential too. It seems like it's ready to break one more time to the upside. Here too, it looks like it's building a correction. And as the wave count suggests, I think there could be more correction to the upside. Is it worth trading right here? I'm looking at this particular piece of the correction, 78.6 fib, triple bottom. I'm not sure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe on the lower time frame. I'm not too convinced. I think it will move higher. I'm just trying to think what could be the best long. I think this pound could be very, very zigzaggy. So I think at this moment, I wouldn't be surprised to see an ABC zigzag. That could be maybe the best idea, is just to wait for a deeper correction. I still think it's in a bullish environment. well, I should say it's a bullish correction, I should say, and I wouldn't be surprised maybe to see this happen. Lots of three waves, corrective zigzag patterns like this. I don't think it's good to short at this moment, even though it could go lower, just because at this moment the bullish momentum is up. So it could be better just to wait for price to get a bit lower instead. Ultimately, I think that there's space for price to move up higher within that, bigger consolidation before the pound dollar should move lower. I mean, that was a huge fall, 1,000 pip fall two weeks ago, and I am expecting that to continue. It's just that it's kind of catching its breath. It's just like a marathon runner has sprinted within the marathon. It's just slow, running a bit slower before it kind of continues with that downtrend. And the pound has been in a marathon to the downside. It's been falling ever since 170. So I'm expecting that to continue, but maybe not now at the moment. So that's why I think that it could correct higher. That correction could be very choppy though, and might not be that pleasant to trade. So I think being probably a bit more defensive and waiting for a move lower is better. Now, if it does push, let's see, this is the hour just finished. This is the fifth candle. If this candle is something like this at the top of the hour, maybe look for a flag on the lower time frames, and that could be an intraday upside too. Dollar yen is better though. I think it's more interesting than the others. I've been bullish on this for a long time. It's finally materializing, so that's good. Now, at this moment, we're seeing some kind of correction here. As you can see, a good bounce at the 61.8 and trendline confluence that basically was at 103.50, 103.75. So it's moving our way. It could still expand basically the correction if it hits the resistance and moves down again like this. Ultimately, when it breaks, I think that could be a good trade to the upside. It would have to, probably the best way is looking at a 4-hour chart or maybe 1-hour chart. Looking for a breakout candle here like this. I mean, the best would be if it hits this, makes a small little hook back like that. Look for a bull flag here and trade the turn of the bull flag or the break of the bull flag. This point, it's about halfway, these trend lines. That is not a great spot, I think, to trade it right now, but it could be very soon. It could have been tradable here or upon the turn, or if it hits and then breaks, or if it just breaks even. All right, so it's still very bullish. Good momentum here. It's just fighting to break the previous top, basically, at 104.50. And it seems to be making a bit of a consolidation here. But ultimately, this is a pause, and I think if it breaks resistance, it will break the daily top, and we could be seeing price going to 105, then 106, then 107.50 probably, and this uptrend can continue. On the daily chart, oh, that's a lot of fibs. Okay, wait, let me get rid of this. And this. All right, here we go. Big daily downtrend. That's broken. And there seems to be here like this pattern. So this could be just part of a C or 3 wave pattern. In both cases, there's a lot of space still left. Even if we take the conservative target is 105.60, more aggressive 107, even more aggressive 109 or 112. So a lot of space to the upside potential here after this trendline break. Let's see, I got some questions actually in the last 5 minutes. Sorry about that, I just see it now. SM is still asking something about the euro dollar. Okay, we'll take a look at that after this one. Go back. Zitan is asking, I think, about... Are you asking Zitan about the dollar yen? Probably. This does look like a wave 4, but it does look like a wave 4 within a bigger upside. So this could be a wave 5, then we'll get another wave of 3, then we'll get another wave 4, and then we'll get another wave 5. And it might finish a bigger A eventually, or a bigger 1, and we might see a bigger hook back like that for 2 or B. I might be wrong, and this might be the last push-up. It depends. That's what I was saying. It depends whether this is an ABC or a 1, 2, 3 really. And that also will depend on how fast this moves and how impulsive the candles are here in this piece. If price breaks and it's a very choppy break, and then price starts to really move down fast after hitting the minus 272 target, yeah, then it's not impulsive. It's not bullish, as bullish as I expect. And I would be not taking longs anymore. If price really breaks the triangle here quickly and then starts to build another bull flag, then the uptrend is on, and this could be a pretty substantial wave 3 potential. So it also depends on how this upside is moving. For the moment, it's a bullish momentum, and I'm expecting continuation, but I don't know if this is a 1, 2, 3 or ABC. I don't think that anyone can know. Both are really 50-50, and it really depends on what kind of information we get as we get it, and then we can make more accurate assessments on that. For the moment, whether it's ABC or 1, 2, 3 though, both have a bullish kind of structure until at least 105.60. So from that perspective, for short-term trading or swing trading, it doesn't really matter. If you're trading, let's say, the daily chart, it might not be the best spot. It could still be okay-ish, but maybe from a swing trade perspective, better trades were from here. I mean, from long-term trading perspective, better trades were here or here, for instance. Perhaps maybe here it's still possible with a short stop loss and then trying to hang in and see if it breaks further like this. But do you see what you're catching my, I think you see what I mean, right? So we'll have to see how much space to the upside it will, move into. And it might range further. It might hit like this, but eventually I think it will break to the upside. If it breaks below, my invalidation level is probably, let's see. Let me get rid of this fib. Let's see. I think that it shouldn't go below this bottom here. So even if it breaks the trend line, yes, that's a cautionary sign, but it could just make basically a bit bigger consolidation, and it could still be a bounce and eventually a break. But if it breaks below that, then it does seem to be, a bit. I would consider that whole bullish scenario to be on pause at the very minimum. Obviously, it's still supporting the support, so support trend line. So at the moment, I would just expect the bullish break to occur right now, or soon. Daily chart, we've had higher highs. Daily chart is showing momentum basically. So these 2 days have not been a higher high, 1, 2. But for me to consider this momentum to be over, 5 to 6 days should not break this high. So if the entire week, this week, does not break this high, then next week I would be cautious about trading it to the upside. In that case, we might see a bigger consolidation or correction first. 4-hour chart, we see about 19 candles. That seems like a decent sized consolidation, which is ready for a breakout. So I think it will happen this week. But if it doesn't, then I'm cautious as well. Let's see. News today. Yeah, definitely be careful with that. CPI basically on dollar and pound. Absolutely be careful with that. SM is already in the trade in the dollar yen. Great stuff there. And Tarantula's email is tarantalafx@gmail.com. I'll write it down. There you go. And it will be uploaded to YouTube, by the way, as well. Regarding the euro dollar, yeah, there is a bit of a wick, indeed. And it seems like a failure here to push further. It's not a strong bearish candle, but it is the fifth candle with the wick. So it seems like we're not getting a break of this top. Seems like the move up and it failed, indeed. Now, I'm not a big fan of trading it to the downside personally because I'm expecting an ABC zigzag at this point. So it's still above the pivot point here as well and the 110. So if anything, it could be a slow a bull flag, excuse me, like this. If it does, then I would expect a break and continuation too. That would change if price really shows a strong momentum bar like this. This hour, next hour, hour after that, anything like this, for instance, right? Small little bear flag, and it's probably ready for a short, like this. Otherwise, at this moment, I would still favor probably a bull flag and a bounce or break as we get a bigger ABC zigzag up to higher fibs. Higher fibs like this. Not the 23.6, but the 38 or the 50 or the 61.8. Let's take a look at euro yen. Bob wanted to take a look at euro yen. We'll do that right now. So we got a lot of fibs here. Let's clean up for the moment. All right. So we got the euro yen daily chart, and it's been going sideways for 5 days. Basically, price not going anywhere at this moment. Seems a big range, just like the dollar yen. You could see how it's basically making lower highs, higher lows. And from that perspective, maybe not as interesting. Let's try to see if we can find something interesting to trade within this. Trying to calculate what the triangle, if it's a triangle perhaps here, I think it is. Let's see, this could be the C. Let me put a fib from here to here. Oh yeah, price was at the 61.8. It could be that price gets up to this fib, 78.6 fib 117. And it could also challenge the bottom at 112. I think that's probably key. 117 and 112. It could move up to challenge resistance or support, I would say. Let's dive into a bit lower time frames. Quite a choppy piece. Inverted head and shoulders. Resistance trend line. There are a lot of things that we can see in here. It's because it's quite messy. Let's put some fibs on here. So if it breaks this support, we could see price fall to these targets like this and then probably bounce. But if it breaks resistance, then it maybe has that potential to go to the 78.6 fib. I would not really jump in a trade right away as it breaks, personally. But I think that trading basically the pattern after the pattern, I've talked about that before. So I think if we see breaks, it would be good to look to 1 hour chart, 30-minute chart, 50-minute chart, look at the momentum, see if there's a small little kind of bull flag here, and trade that break. That could be probably the best way to trade the breakout out of this zone. I think it really, at this moment, I have no preference. It could really break both ways, in my opinion. If we look at maybe the yen and euro for a second, we know that, or it seems likely that the euro dollar will make a bit of a correction to the upside. It seems likely that the dollar yen will move up. So maybe the upside break seems a bit more likely at this moment. Oh, let's see. Sorry about that, Bob. Let's see. I was rebooting MT4 and I didn't want to have you watch the process of rebooting, so I froze it there for a second. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's basically, let me show the daily. Basically here, the upside to 78.6 fib or the downside to retest this bottom. I think probably an upside seems more likely. Momentum, correction, and a break to the upside for a move up to this 117 at 78.6 fib. But the break itself, how might it happen? Well, I think that looking at the hourly, it might occur after a small little bull flag here or a small little bounce, for instance, like this, and then it could break. The break itself, I think, is not that great, but if it makes another bull flag after that, that could be more interesting. Right there. Now it's halfway this triangle, same like the dollar yen. I know it's annoying, but I don't like trading it in this triangle right smack in the middle. So I would rather wait for it to hit, preferably make a correction and then break again like this. And the green circles here could be potential trades to look for, I think. The breaks and bounces. Let's see. Anything else? $114.05. 114.05. Dogen is waiting to buy 114.05. That could be a bit low. I'm not sure if it will get there. You see quite a lot of support already here. It might make a dip back still, like this indeed. But maybe 114.25, 114.50 could be more realistic, I think. I think yen is bullish indeed, but I'm not saying it's a full uptrend yet because it still needs to break above 150, 105, I think, 104. So, but for the moment, bullish. And if it moves up with a lot of momentum, it can go a lot further than that. But for the moment, more let's say conservative target is 105, 106. This Keltner is basically indicating a band, so it's good for bounces, but I use it as a confluence tool. So it's good for bounces. It's good for breakouts too. When price really has a good candle at the Keltner, like here for instance, you often get a continuation. Here too, you see a bit of continuation. Sometimes big continuations. So depending on how the candlestick patterns are at the extremes of the Keltners, I see if it's a breakout or a bounce is more likely. So the Keltners give kind of a width that where price most likely will stay in, but there are moments that it will escape from this band, basically. So I use those candlestick patterns to judge which one is more likely. So I find it a useful tool in this way. All right. So pound in general, though, now it seems to be pushing up slightly and working corrective. But I do think that in the long term we'll see more pound weakness. Now that is not necessarily bad for the UK because it allows itself to adjust to the situation. And one of the difficulties really with the euro for some of these member states like Greece, Portugal, it doesn't have that ability to adjust its currency. So its exports are not getting cheaper. British can kind of boost their exports, can kind of put more energy into their economy. Now they might face some struggles still if there's a hard Brexit, if its negotiations are maybe not as pleasant as expected. It could face some struggle with that. The bill for leaving the European Union is could be on the higher side, could be on the lower side. It all depends. There are commitments that the UK made in the past that they'll need to partly at least still pay into until eventually before they really fully leave. So yeah, that could be all in all a bit painful. But I think that after this, maybe I don't know how the dip will be, but after this small dip, it could rebound. Also, thanks to its currency, actually, due to the fact that it's weakening. So and then we might see the pound strengthen again. So the dollar itself, right? This is also largely a dollar story here. We might see in the next few months, I think, still some dollar consolidation. It all depends on how this euro dollar really starts to move lower as well. So I think that after elections, especially if Clinton wins, I think there's no political obstacles in a way. With Trump victory, which seems not so likely nowadays looking at the polls, but I think that the market will be more cautious to see what kind of policies he will be introducing at the beginning to make a bit of judgment on that. But if it's a Clinton, I think the market is clear, then it looks like the dollar will strengthen, especially if the interest rates go up. So that looks like dollar strength story. And regarding the euro, I think that the eurozone is struggling last 10 years, and I think we're going to see that continue. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of euro weakness next year, personally, or maybe even the rest of this year. So your dollar looks bearish, pound dollar looks bearish, dollar looks strong, but I think we're still maybe just a few steps, away from really seeing that fully materialize. It doesn't have to be necessarily right away today that all of this happens, of course. All right. Regarding the Aussie. So last week I managed to catch the Aussie. I actually took two. One was a loss, put the stop loss a bit tight, got kicked out, but then retook it, and I exited here, and I entered 75.20 here. That was the second trade. That was a profit. The first one was a small loss, like this. Eventually, after the big correction, though, Aussie made yet another push-up. That's not something I participated in. I exited here because part of it was because of the weekend. Because before this correction was over, before it then would break, I was looking at the fact that it was going to be already weekend. Or I was thinking that it will probably be weekend. The weekend was actually here. So that was roughly correct, actually, right? Because it went up and down. Only did it on Monday continue with the upside here. No, I am sorry. I'm totally missed with. I'm totally wrong with the day. Sorry, the gap was here actually. Let me see where I exited. Maybe I exited earlier. No, I exited here. I'm getting it mixed up. Sorry. No, I had a trade from here to here actually. And then it still made one more upside actually. So I was wrong on that. Sorry. Anyhow, the Friday was still bullish and the Monday was bullish. So yesterday we were analyzing it. I'm totally mixed up. Let's see here. So anyone who took that breakout, it actually did move up nicely, and we saw about 70 pips. Now I had some visitors, so I didn't trade yesterday. I had a friend from Holland visiting me, so I was not in the markets yesterday, so forgive me on that one. But I was analyzing it though for the video, and we were looking at this triangle, and it was a nice break, and we got the continuation now reaching the top of the triangle. Yeah, that's it. So the Aussie now, I think, is at a point that is not so good. Yesterday was good. Last week was good at here, or even these smaller bull flags perhaps here. Those were good buys as well. Those were good 3 buys. I took the first one, and now I would say we need a break of this triangle. All right, we're reaching basically the resistance, the top of the triangle. If this candle closes anything like this, right, then there's a good chance we'll finally break. That's what I was saying actually somewhere in here. I think that we'll see one more dip down, but the next one we could see finally the break because the space is getting small within this triangle. That's one. This does look like a hook back, and I think that eventually this is a bullish formation that will break. Now, it might not be here, but it's starting to become more and more likely. So if this candle, today's daily candle, closes anywhere near the high today, then I do think there's a good chance this trend line is going to break. And I think it would be worth putting a fib on the daily candle, looking for a 23.6 fib on lower time frames and trying to take that fib and look for a continuation there. But right now, I don't think it's a good spot because it's approaching the resistance. I would expect price to basically make a bull flag for the rest of the day. Therefore, price will close near the high. It will maybe make tomorrow something like this, go down to the 23.6 fib when putting a fib from here to here. And then it should start its rally and continue. So as you can see, I'm not expecting much to happen today. But tomorrow it could be interesting. If today something else happens, and if it hits resistance and starts to fly down like this, and today it ends up here, then we have a big daily wick like this. I'm not interested in shorts anymore, longs anymore, excuse me. If today hits resistance and today already pushes higher and we have a daily candle that's this big, well, even more reason to look for longs because then I expect to hook back to the 23.6, 38.2 fib, and I expect a continuation. So this is not a good spot in my view. We need more info. Better to wait till tomorrow to see if it does this, or if it does this, or if it does this. These are longs. This is sit on my hands. Did anyone take this breakout by any chance? There was a good, when we were looking at, when I made the video, I think it was this candle or this candle. So this was a good breakout candle, or this one perhaps. This one maybe was already close to resistance, but this one seemed, I think, was better probably. Anyhow, so that answers Ejil's question, right? So no, I'm not looking to short myself. I think that it could be ready to break out. Kiwi is pushing really a lot actually at this moment. a lot more. We were saying here already, be careful with shorting, and it sure was a good thing to be careful with that, because look at this momentum to the upside. Anyone looking at this bull flag could break out right here. Momentum, correction, momentum. It's at the minus 61.8 target, so it could be at a bouncing spot. It's also back at these bottoms here, so it looks like it's close to finding a resistance spot. And I would think that maybe this ABC bullish zigzag could be close to completing. But the thing is, there's no divergence on the 50-minute chart. I would not even think about shorting at the moment because this could still push higher. So I will wait and see. But nothing, if I want to trade it, I would rather wait for exhaustion somewhere eventually 5 to 6 candles not breaking this high. Might think about taking a reversal trade. CAD seems to be strengthening. Yeah, it's still, I think, part of a zigzag here. I would think probably more of a bounce spot around 130. Would rather wait for price to get down to 130 or 130.25 and look for a bounce. Candlestick pattern at 130, I think could be interesting for longs. Here, I don't think it's a good spot to short. Okay, it could be maybe on lower time frames. I'm not a big fan of dollar CAD, especially on lower time frames, I think. But if you see patterns like this on lower time frames like that, and you see another one here, it could still be a small little scalp down to 130. Here you see also some patterns right here and here and here. So the pound odd, well, it basically did break, but very slow, and it's quite choppy. We were looking at it last week and looking for shorts from here. Eventually, we got it break, sideways break. Now it's again sideways. But this is quite messy here. Let's see if there's something else. Let's take a look at some of these. Does anyone have a preference for anything? Let's see. MJ is saying that he's in Germany and converting pounds into euro, and he's wondering how bad how bad it's going to get. So let's take a look at the euro pound quickly, and take a look at the monthly chart here. Good question. We got a lot of resistance at 98. That's still a fair amount away from here. How was the fibs? It's a difficult question. I'm not too sure, to be honest. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th day. So it looks like this momentum is over. It could be that the euro pound is going to make a consolidation at this moment. So I wouldn't be surprised if it just basically stays within maybe 88 and 91 for a while. Yeah, the CPI will definitely, give some short-term movement, of course, for today. Long-term, I think that it could make a consolidation for the moment. It is at the 78.6 fib, so that's pretty deep. Now, it could still go to the 88.6 fib, right, after making a bit of a correction like that. We'll have to see how this responds. If price really starts to have a lot of momentum to the downside and corrects like that, it might be bearish for one more leg, at least one more leg. At this moment, that does maybe not seem that likely. So I would say correction like this seems probably most likely, and then we'll have to see which way it breaks, the up or down. Shallow correction is when you have a lot of momentum, like this, momentum, so you get shallow correction. Deep correction is often if you are in a trend and a new trend to the opposite side is developing, like this. Then you'll often see a deep correction. A wave 1, 2, for instance, here. Whereas if you already have a 1, 2, 3, the 4 is shallow, often. Yeah, the Out New Zealand hit that resistance spot we were talking about and seems to be correcting now. It seems to be starting the bigger correction I was talking about. So it took a while before really price turned. Here we were saying that it's really close to this resistance. I wouldn't be surprised to see a move down before it moves higher again, either in a zigzag like this or in a bull flag correction. And it seems to me that the first 5 waves has been completed here. That is probably the A. And I would not be surprised if price makes a turn at the 50 or 61.8 or any of these fibs for that matter and starts to move lower in a bigger correction like this. Even the 78.6 fib, it could be a head and shoulders for a move down to the 38 and the 61.8 target, for instance. And then I would expect there or at the 50 fib a turnaround back up again. Oil seems to be making a little bit of a consolidation triangle. A break could indicate the continuation of the daily breakout like this, and price could retest 52 and then maybe break and go to 58. Let's see, the DAX, it looks bullish to me. It basically broke this resistance. It's making a kind of a, still looks like it's making a bull flag. If we put a fib from here to here, 38.2 bounce. So, yeah, but the question is, it's quite choppy on the 4-hour chart. Difficult to trade. I wouldn't trade it, probably only on the daily chart, to be honest. A big daily candle like this pushing through this resistance. That's probably the only signal. Now, on lower time frames, it could be a bit different, right? You got a lot of momentum on the DAX. It's heavily traded intraday, and that could be a totally different story. But from a swing trading perspective, that's what I would wait for, a break of this bull flag. On lower time frames, let's see, it's now at the hourly, it's hitting the Keltner, so that could be a break or bounce spot. So if there's some candle struggling, I wouldn't be surprised to see some kind of bigger correction like this, right? But if it's a good breakout candle here, it just could continue like this with the momentum. maybe ride up a few hours and then correct again down. Gold still basically price is making a correction like this. There's still the same like last week, looking like it's correcting up for a correction to the 38 or 50 fib, and then I expect one more lower low. Okay, let's take a look at the pound yen. And any questions besides, let's see, any questions still left for anything unclear maybe, or you want to take a look at other instruments, just let me know. Pound yen is, yeah, it's very similar to all those yens. Looking quite even more messier than the others probably. Let me just quickly change this pivot point here. It's impressive that basically it fell all the way to the starting spot where the trend started here. It was so high, almost hitting 200. And the fall has been even more impulsive than the rise. Yeah, that's been a very, the biggest fall of them all. More than dollar yen, of course. More than euro yen. Euro yen's fall has been also choppier. There's a lot of momentum riding this. I think that, you see, the thing is that with this momentum push, it could easily just build a correction and then still continue lower. So it's not an easy environment. I think that it probably will continue with the downtrend just because of the pound. But if the yen starts its uptrend, then it could be quite corrective. So you could have, you know, if the pound is weakening, you can see it move down, but if then the yen weakens, it could move up. So it could be move up like this and start a very choppy downside and then maybe a choppy upside. Long-term perspective, it could be a bit messy, this pound yen. Start to be messy. It was quite a good downtrend, but from lower time perspective, yeah, it's I'm not a big fan, as you can see. It's maybe a turn at the 2028.30. I think probably best to look for some confluence at a resistance spot, or if the pound does push up and the yen starts to break, you know, look for a bit of a maybe a bull flag or a bit of a triangle here and then the break up to that target. Now I don't think it's a good spot, but if it shows some type of consolidation pattern and then breaks, yeah, I think it could be a bit better for that upside, and it will kind of complete this zigzag finally. That could go a lot more than that. Don't, you know, mind you that it could go up to these targets too, right? It could basically go like make a flag, as I said, hit the target, make a flag, hit the target, keep doing that, and then maybe one of these targets it will finally make a bigger correction. All right, let's take a look at AUD-CAD and CAD-Yen, two great stuff to traders asking for these, let's say, exotic currency pairs, or they're definitely not majors, of course, but we'll take a look at those absolutely. Some of these could be very interesting setup because if we, for instance, see CAD strength kick in, but Yen weakness, CAD-Yen could be very interesting. If we see Aussie weaken, but CAD strengthen, AUD-CAD could indeed be very interesting. So let's take a look at those. There was another question about European and UK stocks. Well, we've seen the FTSE move up a lot. Definitely partly at least because of the weaker pound. It hit a double top, is not able to break through it as yet, and it failed to break the top, making double top. That was the fifth candle. Sixth candle kind of sealed the deal, and we're seeing a bigger correction. So far, the correction has been quite choppy and consolidation. Looks like more of a correction. So this could be just a pause, and after which it will break. But I think this consolidation still needs more time. I think it will still move sideways. It's respecting the 38.2 fibs. So I wouldn't be surprised if price basically does like this and then breaks to the upside. Basically, weak pound could be good for companies in the UK that are exporting. So those stocks should be benefiting. Those are especially bigger companies, international companies. Those benefit the most. If smaller companies, mid-sized companies might have some exports, maybe not. Depends. They will generally benefit a bit less. That depends also from country to country. Germany has a lot of small businesses that export. They do that very well. I'm not sure about the UK, to be honest, but typically on average, bigger companies benefit a bit more from a weaker currency than, let's say, small or medium. Generally speaking, yes, indeed, but trade mix, but trade IMX, but I think that the Eurozone is also looking at some struggles. So I'm not sure how much the pound could weaken, but the euro might be pretty weak too. So I'm not sure about that euro pound really. It could really consolidate. Both could be weak. Both the euro dollar, pound dollar could be eventually moving down, and there could be dollar strength, and the euro and pound weakness could be basically maybe equally strong. Now, I'm not saying that the euro pound cannot move up to the 88.6 fib, but I think for the moment we'll see a consolidation. Yeah, Craig is saying, what are my thoughts about the center of the European Financial Center, being based in New York City, probably, and not London. So, yeah, that's it shows what kind of far-reaching impact the Brexit vote had. I think that probably even politicians didn't realize what kind of impact it eventually had, let alone voters. I think many aspects, you just see how many aspects it was difficult to reckon with, and it was even difficult to calculate exactly what really the bill is of leaving. And I think, I'm just guessing here, but I think that if people would have maybe known that what they know now, I think there's a good chance that Brexit would not have happened. I know maybe I'm biased. Well, probably not maybe. I'm for sure biased. Everyone has their opinions. So, and I don't have any stats to back that. I didn't look at any exit polls. I don't know if anyone did an exit poll in recent days or weeks about what the opinion is at the moment. But that's my gut feeling. Let's see. So the FTSE, yeah, 38.2 fib. I think that could be a consolidation, and we'll probably see a break as the pound weakens. Yeah, 38.2 fib is indeed the standard. Is a very normal level for a consolidation to stop. Let's see. Prabhakar is saying that his strategy is FTSE 100 goes up, then the pound will fall, and the other way around. Yeah, I think that for the moment seems like a correlation that will continue for the moment at least. Alrighty, odd CAD. Let's take a look. Big range for the odd CAD. Looks like a pivotal moment for the moment. Big top, but strong bullish momentum. And looks like a bull flag at the moment. So this looks bullish to me, but surprising a bit. Let me think for the moment, because odd New Zealand, I'm expecting first a downside before upside. But I am expecting odd USD to break up first as well. Let me tie this together, because if the dollar CAD actually is moving down but reaching support soon as well. So I would, if I think about it, I would probably be very careful about the Kiwi. I would probably not be looking for shorts actually. The Kiwi could be strengthening together with the Aussie, but the Kiwi could do it a bit more. Maybe odd New Zealand moving lower and then Aussie strengthening more. This is what I'm expecting on the odd New Zealand. Once again, like this. So the dollar CAD, I think, is moving towards support. So if the Aussie strengthens and the dollar CAD bounces, it would make sense that this is a flag corrective, or this is not a flag, but a correction basically, and bullish correction or bearish correction, but bullish momentum prior to it, so upside. So we see resistance spot right here. This is not easy. It's quite choppy, but if today's candle is bullish and closes near the high like this, I think this trend line will break. We'll probably see a small dip and we'll see the break, and we could see the test of this resistance and maybe the break. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth candle, not breaking this low, so it seems like this swing high is over, this correction is over, down to the 50, and it seems like either it's going to make a bigger correction sideways like this, or it's going to break and continue. So looking for a breakout here I think makes sense. Today's candle closed near the high, or otherwise if 4-hour chart, for instance, or hourly chart shows like a bull flag, for instance, here, it could be good for a breakout. The FTSE looks pretty correlated with the pound USD at the moment. Pound odd, if it's a falling wedge, well, I would be careful with that because pound looks still weak relatively. Aussie looks relatively strong. I think this has more potential for more downside. It could be a bit of a falling wedge, but it's a pattern that could see, for instance, price, I don't know, move up like this, or even to the pivot, but eventually down. And I'm not even sure if that will happen necessarily. So I would personally not be looking for longs on the pound odd. I don't think it's a great time to short either, though, at this point. I would probably want to see a more clear impulse to the lower, probably a move down to the S1 like this. If there's a good fall like this and a bear flag, that looks good. Or if there's some type of correction like this. Anywhere a correction towards 160, 160, 50 should see follow through, I would say. And then we have one more, the CAD yen, I think. Let's take a look. CAD yen is an exotic, one of the exotic pairs, and basically we see the same kind of fall that we had on the other yens, the dollar yen, euro yen, pound yen, a bit different perhaps than the dollar yen because, well, first of all, the CAD yen is all the way back to the bottom. It's more like a pound yen. But ultimately, I think it will follow the yens probably. Did you have any particular trade in mind with the CAD yen? I'm looking at it. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I'm not looking at the CAD yen regularly. Oh yeah, trade IMX set if there's a good buy at this moment. Got it. Which time frame? There's divergence between these bottoms. That's good for reversal potential. There was a recent triangle here, a 1 hour triangle. Basically, when I say a pattern of the pattern, this is a good example because we had basically a ascending wedge here, right? But that was a pretty big pattern. So if one is looking at the 4 hour chart and says, oh, it'll be interesting to trade, but doesn't want to trade that break, then one way would be to wait for the pattern of the pattern, which would be this. That just broke. So there is a bit of divergence between these tops. And it could be still good to trade. But I don't think right now. Maybe if this daily candle ends up like this. Just wait for a small retracement of today, sorry. And it could still be a good spot for adding a long there. Let's see. We're right at the Keltner, so it looks like it could be a bit of a bouncing, stalling spot at this moment. Big 1 hour wick. I don't think it's a great spot to buy right now, but I think it could be later on. If it either makes a bit of a bull flag and then breaks, I think it could be a good buy. Or if today's candle closes bullish, tomorrow retracement and continuation. It could still be just, because this is ultimately just momentum, and it could be just trading this continuation of the bullish momentum. That's what it is basically. And within that bullish momentum, we might see a pullback continuation, or if we see some correction and a breakout like that. As long as price stays above this bottom. This should be a pullback, probably for more upside. But now, I mean, you never know. It could still push higher. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just that I don't think it's worth the risk here. Ultimately, it could, still post an hour chart like this, but then the next one will probably be bearish, and it might just kind of linger here a bit like that. That's what I'm expecting. We also have to take a look at how this 4-hour candle closes. If this 4-hour candle closes with a wick like this, there will be probably some consolidation, and price might just go sideways like that. Then I would look at the daily chart to see how the daily closes if I'm trading it up. If this one closes bullish near the high, it could be ready for a breakout today right away and an immediate continuation momentum. So if this 4-hour candle closes strong compared to the Keltner, there could be an immediate follow through today. If it's a weak close, I would expect price to go sideways. Then it depends on the daily candle close. If now it's bullish, what could happen is that basically price goes sideways for a few hours like this, but then finds a new momentum leg like that. All right, most interesting, just to make a recap here, I know that we talked about a lot of things perhaps, and that could make things a bit confusing. So just to wrap it up here, I think, by perspective, shorts from these fibs are the most interesting, although there could be potential to trade from the pivot point or to break for like smaller trades to that upside, counter trend, more dangerous though. With the trend, I think, is a breakout on the dollar, and I think that's the most interesting, to look for a breakout up to 105, 106. I think pound dollar does not look very interesting, but if it does make a zigzag, it could bounce again at the bottom, continue with these kind of choppy movements. Euro yen, I think, breakout to the upside, but would need a daily candle. I think Aussie was great trading to the upside from here, and if you caught it here, I didn't. But now I think it needs to this date to close, whether it's going to be basically good for upside. If it closes near the high, I think tomorrow it will be good for upside. Dollar CAD, I was thinking, okay, these were great pattern breaks, but it's getting close to the target of 130. I do think 130 is a bouncing spot. If it makes one more bear flag, maybe small trade, risky trade though to 130, but 130 seems to be a bouncing spot. I would think that could be an interesting potential there. That's about it. New Zealand looks bearish than bullish. The bigger ABC zigzag down to the 50 fib. Which pair? 80 is, let me think, which is 80? Which pair was that trade, IMX? And otherwise, odd CAD has indeed a bull flag. CAD yen could be ready. CAD yen, oh yeah. CAD yen, where is it? CAD yen, here. If it does continue, if it does go sideways like this, good question. Yeah, it's pretty close to the target indeed. 80 is a of course, obviously a psychological round level. Very close to a target indeed. 88. It's good you asked because I didn't even realize that. 80 is a lot of fib levels there. Oof. Okay, that was good that you saw that. There's a top in here. There's a Keltner. There's a long-term moving average. Yeah, that's oof. Just I missed that. That's a really big resistance zone indeed. Now it doesn't have to mean it could still get there, right? It could still kind of make a bull flag and then push up, but the space is very limited, and 80 could be definitely a bouncing spot. How much? I don't know. You know, it depends on how these daily candles close as well, because momentum can be strong. If the daily candles keep that momentum, it could push through it. It could push through 80 eventually, and there could be like a 1 hour pause at it or a 50-minute correction at 80, and we just have a kind of a smaller correction before price pushes further. But yeah, definitely beware of that. Buyer beware of 80. Indeed, we got to be careful of that. But daily candles will give us more information. Daily candles look strong. It could just keep pushing. Also, 50-minute chart, let's see. Got a few candles here. It's not enough to say that the correction will start, but if it does, it gives us a bit more space if it corrects like this, and then the break, there's still a bit more space up to 80 as well. And once again, who knows? It could just be a very small pause at 80. But there is a good confluence there. Pound CAD, 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like the pound dollar, same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candle not breaking. So I'm expecting a bigger consolidation. Let me check the pound USD quickly. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6-day 2. So I think from this perspective, we're going to see another 1 or 2 weeks correction. That's the same for pound CAD, I would expect. We're at the 61.8 fib. There is a bit of inverted house shoulders. Now, momentum is kicking in here to the downside, so I wouldn't be trading that. But if price goes down and there is a bit of struggle here and it starts to show some candlesticks, it could be a head and shoulders. And the confirmation of a bigger kind of correction would happen if it breaks above this trend line. Let's see. Derek is giving us info about options expiring at 110. Roughly 2.2 billion options have expired today. And what's my opinion about this? Could it be strong support? So yeah, these can be these options are definitely things that have impact on the market. So definitely something, if you hear about that, I mean, something to think about and keep in mind and use as confluence. And, you know, that is something that is worth using or keeping in mind, definitely. And can be very strong supportive resistances, indeed. At 110 is anyhow, of course, a psychological level. We know that is something that is typically a strong level, so that only adds to it. It's a pivot point, so yeah, I am expecting price to stay above it. I'm not expecting price to break it, and I'm expecting, from a wave perspective, too, a zigzag up. That would be either because it moves a bit lower, let's say to 110 exactly, or 109.90 max, or if it breaks above, makes a smaller flag at the R2 and then breaks again. So it does fit within, you know, the chart patterns, wave patterns that we've seen. Yeah, Europe, I'm expecting an upside break. Once it breaks above 115, then I would expect a move up to 117. But I would be looking for the pattern after the pattern. I would be looking for a break, small pattern, and then a break. Okay, folks. Well, the time is up. We had a full webinar. Thank you so much for all your questions. Really appreciate that. If you're interested, if you're looking at the recording and you don't know by any chance, we have more webinars, daily basically, or at least Monday to Thursday. Take a look at admiralmarkets.com, click on education, then click on Forex and CFD webinars tomorrow, and then it takes a look at his price action trader school. Tomorrow we have strategy, same time, same place. And on Thursday we continue with all these pattern trading webinars that we've had the last 2 weeks. We take a look at part 2 of beginning and advanced patterns. Wish you all great trading, a great day, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers, folks.